welcome to another amazing episode of Say It Online, where we help digital agency owners stop just randomly shouting into the void and start communicating meaningfully and effectively in this digital age. I'm your host, Say Gabriel, and this episode was brought to you by our sponsor, Anansi Content. If you're sick of conversion content being a huge pain in your agency's butt, especially websites, campaigns, etc., let's talk. With the smoothest content process ever, a team of unbelievably skilled and organized content strategists, and years of subcontracting experience, Anansi is looking to make your life as a digital agency owner unbelievably easier. Just head, if you're interested, to anansicontent.com, that's ANANSI content.com, and hit Let's Talk. And now, without further ado, here's our episode. So, this week, I am excited to talk to our very own Jenn O'Brien. So many of you guys, as our listeners, may already know Jenn. She is the account manager here at Anansi. She is somebody that we were really stoked to bring on quite a bit earlier in the year when we realized that because we believe in going deeper and not wider with relationships and having fewer partners, we were realizing that me and Celine tackling all of the kind of relationships and follow-ups and making sure that everyone that we work with is just happy and well mooshed into our process was getting overwhelming. And quite frankly, we weren't doing a great job at it anymore. And so enter Jenn, who has just been so amazing for the last few months. So welcome, Jenn. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Say. I'm so excited to be here today. Number one, I'm just excited to be a part of this team and the great vibe and everything. And I actually think that in the interview process, I may have made a comment about going deep and not wide with clients and bringing value. So it's funny that you brought that up because I do think I remember talking about it throughout that hiring process, which was awesome. But yeah, just super stoked to be here. Excited to get to chat with you about kind of like all things Anansi-esque going on.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm blessed enough to get to chat with you, usually at least once a week, used to be more, but unfortunately now we just have our one work session. So this is a really nice treat, often an account manager position is really, kind of a customer service position in that you're really about making sure that people are really just happy and content and stoked. But I know that for us at Anansi, because we do so much kind of like in-depth marketing work, both with our partners, with our clients, we often end up kind of like sharing behind the scenes what works and what doesn't process-wise. Our account manager position is much more involved than the typical one. So why don't you just share with our listeners, super high level, what is it that you do at Anansi? Yeah, let's start there. What is it that you do with us?
Absolutely. And you know what is ironic as well? You and I, we just got back from a conference. We were at U Summit down in Denver, which was absolutely amazing. And a lot of people, when they heard that we were this completely remote team, a lot of people said, how do you make it work? How is culture? And I didn't even question it. I feel so close to pretty much everybody on the team because of this, the way it is run, the amount of times that we do meet per week, the sharing that we do outside of work as well, right? So I thought that was something, it kept coming up in question. And for me, it hasn't even been a question. I do feel very welcomed with open arms, but also that I've gotten to know everybody, even though we are spread apart on, different continents, actually. So I thought that was really super cool. Yeah, right? But to answer your question about what it is that I do at Anansi, I am, much like you said, trying to make sure that our partners that we work with are having a very seamless time going through the content process with the whole team, looking for other opportunities for us to grow as well. Also, just being a part of the team, but really making our partners' lives less stressful, making their process more simple to get them from A to Z when it comes to content for their client projects. And I love it.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. We do at this point have 4 strategists that all have kind of, different strengths and work on different projects and stuff. And I think that it's really important to have that kind of one person who isn't leading projects directly, but is more in charge of kind of that high level relationship of how our projects interact with each other's and how that structure flows. So that's super, super cool.
Yeah.
So you come to us from a little bit of an atypical or an interesting background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Atypical. Yeah, I guess so. So I have been in real estate for about 12 years. First, kind of in the marketing realm of that. Then I got my license, dove in, happy selling real estate, then really started to love the training aspect and the marketing aspect. So started to train real estate agents how to develop their business, how to market to their clients, how to speak to them appropriately, how to help build systems within that. So I've really kind of been in that kind of role of like trainer and coach for the last little while. And, much like life happens, you start to get burnt out and you start to, maybe want a little bit of a change, which is where I was at when I was fortunate enough to meet you and Celine. And you guys just, kind of like totally blew me away in terms of the company that you've built, the bones that you've got in terms of your processes and systems, but also just, again, coming back to that, going deep instead of wide, really providing just an obscene amount of value to the clients and the partners that you're working with, that we're working with, to really help them change their businesses and to, ultimately, like, I don't want to get too dorky too quick, but, change lives as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're amongst good company. We're all dorks here, at least on the team.
Love it so much.
So real estate, right? So not just real estate. So what I'm hearing, you went from a place of marketing to direct selling to marketing again to training in marketing. What were how was that transition from the real estate space into the digital marketing realm? Was that kind of seamless? Were there some challenges there?
There's definitely always challenges. I think anybody that decides to make a shift, especially when you've been spending so much of your time and energy in this kind of one bubble, and you poke your head out and you're like, oh, there actually is other things going on in the world, right? There are other industries, there are other conversations. So for sure, it's challenging, more so in just the, I want to show up for not only the team, but for the partners as well, and the clients. But I want to show up in a way that brings them value and that is educating them through the process. So the challenge that I really had in the beginning was things like learning the language, getting to know everybody. But I have really been able to, look at it and kind of mirror the two together almost. So I can see the similarities. I think there are similarities in a lot of, different industries. But yeah, again, my biggest challenge was just that having that language, understanding, the different challenges that our partners as digital agencies have, and how can the experience that I've had, how can I bring that to the table to help them, solve their goals. So it's challenging for sure, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm really curious, if I'm not mistaken, the real estate world, I know not only is Celine from the real estate world herself, but we have worked with quite a few real estate agents over the years in terms of projects. And it always seems to me like that's a world that's very removed from the digital space to some degree.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if, you talk about like kind of adjusting to different like terminology and stuff like that. Were there any adjustments from going to kind of this like very face-to-face world into, being in front of a screen, interacting with people through a screen?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So what were some of that? Can you dig into that a little bit more for us?
For sure. 100%. There's this term kind of in the real estate world that we would use, and it was called belly to belly. And you hear it quite often that, real estate, and Celine and I have actually even talked about it as well, that real estate will always be that belly to belly business, that you actually need to sit in front of people and talk to them, and as a way to, really build those relationships. And then I polar opposite that, coming aboard here with a remote team spread all over the world and do nothing but talk, not nothing, but do a lot of like talking to my screen during the day. So of course it's vastly different. But again, just to kind of like circle back to the way the team is run, I never felt like I didn't know you, or that I didn't know Celine, or that I wasn't getting to know the amazing strategists that are writing content for our partners' clients. And again, relatively quickly, I do think that, I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that we, kind of clicked right away. So it made that kind of transition less awkward. Although every now and again, like when I catch a glance of myself out of my side mirror, much like I'm doing right now, talking to my screen, you're a little bit like, oh, that looks a bit funny. But, there's a whole different level of connection there. The partners that I talk to, the clients that I talk to, I feel connected with them, even though we're in totally different parts of the world.
And what are some of the elements that you found to be kind of critical to that connection? I mean, maybe an obvious one that pops to mind is, video. But, have you found that there are certain kind of like tools or tactics or approaches that you found to be really critical to experiencing or creating that sort of connection despite that kind of remoteness?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. Some things, we're all fortunate to have certain skills, certain things that we bring to the table. Also, on the other side of that, weaknesses. I've definitely always been very passionate about building relationships and getting to know people, which is a little bit harder when there's that screen there and you're not, sitting in that belly to belly world that we did used to talk about all the time. But taking a couple of extra seconds to ask some added questions, right? Like I want to get to know, like, for instance, about where you are. Like I would take the time to like ask about what that's like there, and, now I have this little obsession with populations. I always ask people what the population of is their town. Generally, I want to know, but also that helps to, build that relationship. So just going like outside of that extra box, and it's not always about the project that we're talking about or the task that we're talking about, or, some kind of issue that we're wanting to solve, but also just like asking questions about your life and things that you like and things like that. It's really being cognizant of building that relationship. Whereas when you're sitting with somebody in a room, that comes a little bit more naturally. But I think when there's the screen kind of in front of us all the time, we have to make an exception to go outside of that and actually have human interaction and conversation.
So if I'm hearing and understanding you correctly, what I'm hearing is that even with kind of a visual connection like video, what I'm hearing, the kind of belly to belly connection that you're talking of, is all of those like subtle nuances and like subconscious, maybe like noticings and connections and things that happen outside of the visual realm when people are together.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that it's not that there's a particular kind of tool or, maybe a special thing or approach that can bridge that gap. It's more so being cognizant of the gap and taking the extra time and energy to reinforce that human connection and not just get caught with the kind of laser focused, what are we here, what is the goal, etc. Making sure that gets tackled, but also putting in more effort to just understand what the other person's life is like and what their context is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we actually are a perfectly good example. So what the listener should know is that when we did attend that seminar last week, we met in person for the very first time. And you were a person outside of the screen, right? Even though we've been working together, for a good couple of months now.
More than that.
Yeah, right? It has been. It's
More
crazy.
Months,
Time goes by so quickly.
Yeah.
But, just meeting in person does add that level of connection, right? Like, did you agree with that?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And there's this weird, it's kind of weird because there's this kind of weird anticipation where you're like, holy cow, I've committed to spend time with this person that I actually don't know at all.
Yeah.
But then after that initial kind of like, of meeting each other, like physically, I think that it's almost anticlimactic.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh yeah, actually we've spent hours and hours hanging out together.
Yeah.
And this new dimension is new, but it's a smaller dimension than expected.
Yeah. And anticlimactic is a very good word, right? Because it's not positive or negative. It's just because we've, never like physically met in person. I think you maybe have these expectations about what it might be like, or I don't really know this person. But again, like you said, the reality is we've actually spent hours discussing. I know your philosophies on life. I know your philosophies on business. I know the things that you like to do, the things that you don't, the nuances that you have as a person. So I already know that. So after about like 5 or 10 minutes, it's like, oh yeah, right. I do know this person. So, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's like go on. But it was really, really neat for me to see at that conference the amount of people that I said in the beginning did ask about how we do so well, or how we keep culture, or how we keep acting as an actual team. And I do think it is because we've got people that are actually interested in each other and do even that maybe whether it's cognizant or not, do actually take the time to ask about each other's day, about what's going on. The segues that we use in meetings, often we talk about our personal best, our business best. Even that little bit right there, I think connects us as a group more so than, anything else that we're going to discuss in the call, even though we obviously need to discuss those things.
Agreed. And I will also point out, this may be evident for some of our listeners, but we do have an all hands on deck meeting once a week. And not everyone can attend all the time because we are 9 people in 3 countries. I think 2 continents.
2 continents, yeah.
2 continents, yeah. We've got quite a few people in different time zones. And that being said, though, having everybody on that call once a week, we all meet with each other kind of in different combinations throughout the week, kind of as we need to. But I know that for me, that really helps me feel connected to everyone. Even just being able to see people's faces while we talk about business and stuff, it creates this warmth that I really, really like. And when I miss, because sometimes, I am, especially around U Summit, the last few weeks, I've had times where I was busy and missed a session or two. And I really I feel it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that meeting for me has really solidified the fact that we are a team, that we do have, common goals. Like you typically gather around, the quote unquote water cooler in the office, right? And we don't have the opportunity to do that, which is where you get to know about your colleagues, about their life, how you find that connection. So that meeting for me really does solidify the fact that we are a team and that we are just as connected as if we were sitting in an office building and had separate offices, right? So it's important. Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Yeah, agreed. And it still blows my mind sometimes to think that there are several people on the team that I still have yet to meet in person.
I know.
Like Jazz, who's one of our strategists, our chief of marketing, but one of our senior strategists. She, back before we had strategists, when we were just hiring copywriters, she was someone who we worked with quite a bit and then kind of trained up. Oh my gosh, she reminded me a few months ago that we'd never met in person, and I actually paused for a moment, and that really shook me. Because her in particular, not only do we meet for various work-related purposes, but we actually totally send each other personal voice messages all the time and connect over each other's lives all the time.
And I think that just solidifies the fact that you can build a remote team that is close and that is connected, but is just geographically in different spaces. And I think that that's been one of the coolest things for me to come in here, again, from a vastly different physical world, right? Again, like having meetings with clients and meeting people on a regular basis, to coming in here, but still feeling really connected to people that I technically only talk to over the screen, right?
Yeah, so this is all super, super fascinating. I want to kind of shift our focus here and explore a little bit kind of, the overlap and differences between industries. So I'm curious, what are some of the patterns that you've noticed? You have now spoken to quite a few digital agency owners. I am someone who, as kind of the owner of the business growing up in the industry, I have a certain perspective. I'm curious, from your outside perspective, what are some of the kind of patterns that you've noticed, whether that's kind of common challenges that agency leaders experience or common kind of themes that come up?
Yeah, there's a ton of crossover, which I think when you're talking about entrepreneurism in like an umbrella, there are a lot of similarities, right? A lot of business owners feel overwhelmed. A lot of business owners feel like they have to wear all of the hats, right? A lot of business owners feel lonely because they're dealing with this business and everything from the clients to the expenses, the processes and all the in between. Like you're doing everything until you can get to that spot where you can start to leverage, other people. So the similarities are, like, I wouldn't say identical because they're a bit different, but they're there, right? When I talk to some of our partners and we start to get, dive a little bit deeper, they're having the exact same issues that, say, 2-3 years ago when I was meeting with real estate agents all the time, that they're having. And it is, how do I do everything? I have to, get this proposal out. I have to also market my business. I have to make sure my clients are satisfied, because in order for that, the clients pay the bills. So it's really, when you take a step back, it's super, super, super similar. And there are a lot of common problems and challenges and areas for opportunity that business owners have. And so that digital agency partners have as well. The most surprising thing to me is that besides, the actual service that somebody is offering or the language and terminology, there actually isn't a lot of difference. There's a lot of similarities between, where I come from and who I'm working with now on a regular basis. And I'm just super passionate about trying to help them solve those problems. It's been so fun.
That's super cool. I mean, that's a little bit surprising to me, with the kind of hyper local nature of real estate versus, the more diffuse, I don't know, experiences or locations of agency owners. But at the same time, that makes sense, right? One of the things that I hear a lot is like humans talking to humans. We are a group of humans. The digital agency owners are also humans, and we are talking to other humans. And I think that a lot of human needs and emotions and et cetera do translate across different kind of industries and experiences.
Absolutely. And, when we're talking about things like hyper local or niches, I'm Canadian. I say niche. I know some of our listeners might say niche, but I say niche. So, when we're talking about those things, when you remove kind of what they are or what defines a niche or something that's local or a community, it's still, I guess I'll use that word community. It's still a community of people that have a common goal, right? So if one of our partners are working strictly in, let's say, the fitness industry, that's a fitness community of people that have a common problem that our partners are, trying to solve for them. And when you take away kind of all the intricacies and the details, it really is a common thread. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think this makes a lot of sense to me. In our early days, we tried really hard to get to write. Just bear with me through this analogy. I swear to God, it's relevant.
I have no doubt.
We used to get a lot. We used to try and match writers a lot more specifically to the industry, even if we had not worked with a writer before. Obviously, we would do our due diligence, vetting them and stuff, but we had this really strong idea that industry knowledge was critical. And obviously, as we've evolved, we definitely do have people with an experience that crosses a breadth of different industries. And we do sometimes match the industry to the person. But what we've come to realize is that the capacity to empathize and the capacity to put yourself in other people's shoes and understand the range of emotions that they might be experiencing positively or negatively, the needs that might not be getting met, the transformations that can experience when you touch an organization that really changes your life. We actually found that those skills were far, far, far rarer and more precious than specific industry knowledge, because in the end, anyone can kind of look up some jargon or definitions. And yes, the nuances of an industry can be incredibly important, but none of that matters unless you're able to understand the things that kind of unite and bridge all people,
Yes.
which is that emotional landscape. And not just understanding that emotional landscape, but being able to translate that into words is a very unique skill. And it's far more important than being attached to one particular industry than the other, because someone who's really good at it will be able to trace those lines across almost any industry and use the client's expertise or industry experience to create the nuance there.
Yes. Absolutely. That's what I was trying to say. But again, because you are much more eloquent with your words than I am, you just like hit the nail exactly on the head to, the point that I was trying to make. It's funny, people, when I get on the phone with people or on a call with people for the first time, they're always like, are you a writer too? And I always laugh because I'm like, no, definitely not. If you would see some of my emails or my scratchpad notes, you'd know that I am definitely not. But the fact that I get to work with, 5 of the most gifted writers that I've come across, I feel pretty lucky. But that was absolutely what I was trying to say, is that when you have empathy, when you have, the ability to connect people with words and clients with words, like there's so much more power in that than just the technical detailed differences that maybe our clients have, or maybe some of our, digital agency partners have. It really is that connection with their audience, and the words have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
I know. I was just like, oh, words.
Yeah.
I love words.
Well, there's so much power in them. They have the ability not only to like connect everybody, but, once you get down to it, to make that sale or make that person click, or, make somebody take some kind of action. Right. And it's really crazy that, words have that much power, and they really do. They really do.
Yeah, agreed. So Jen, I'm curious, how has your experience, how is kind of your perception of kind of the industry, your role, et cetera, remote teams, even I know that's a theme that's come up quite a bit. How has that shifted over time? Let's say you've been with us just over 6 months now. How has that kind of, shifted as your experience has grown?
Yeah, I definitely, when I first came in here, I had an idea of what I assumed maybe digital marketing really was, again, because of the experience, that I had with it in my own industry prior to this. But one thing that I've really, really noticed and that I really love is that a lot of the partners that we work with, inclusive of our team, but the partners, the clients, everybody really cares about each other doing really well. And I guess I didn't, expect that. I come from a highly competitive industry where even though we might be friends and colleagues, we're actually ultimately competing against each other and competing against, to gain business. And I just have not felt that here. Every partner that I've talked to speaks highly of each other because some of them know each other. Everybody really wants everybody to do well. And I got to say, that is wildly refreshing and really kind of, again, gives me hope for the greater good of the world, right? That little dorkiness coming out. But that has been amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that was really, really transformative for me as well in business, And in fact, when we hire, I'm not sure if we did this for when we were hiring for your role, but I know that we've done this since. We actually share one of the value speeches that I've done in the past that's called redefining the word marketer. And the reason that we shared this is because we only want to work with people, especially on our internal team, who are on the same page about this kind of cooperation over competition, where many of us have this idea of marketing as, the 90s toy commercials that, that were kind of all about you need this, get, or else, get this, convince your parents you need it, that kind of a thing. Which I remember just toy commercials and chocolate and candy bars and that kind of stuff. I could probably still sing you the jingle for a lot of different candy.
Or that Sears catalog, that was brilliant for them to send out to the kids. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
anyways.
I remember that was a big thing, and for instance, my family, Toys R Us was the place that we almost never went. Because it's funny because my partner says that his parents did the opposite. They took him to Toys R Us because there was so much stuff for him to fiddle and play with that it kept him occupied. But for us, it was always that stuff. We just needed to be aware that it was all super highly priced and we probably weren't going to be able to buy any of it, so we just didn't go in. But the Sears catalog, the Sears catalog, it was just a giant wish wish list, and then our parents could pick and choose what they wanted to get us.
That thing was just dreamy. Like when it came in, and it was always like around this time of year, like it was early that it came out.
Yeah, it was very
and then I
early.
would sit and like circle things and, try to like rip out pages and like leave them around for, my mom and dad to see.
Yeah, to notice. Yeah. No, I also had that experience. And, like this idea of, manipulative marketing, I think is one that's persisted. And I mean, I'm not someone who watches a lot of cable TV, but from time to time when I turn it on, it shows me that it is not dead.
No, it's definitely not dead.
Definitely not dead. That being said, though, that really is the 1% of marketing.
Yeah.
Whether you want to look at it from kind of an intuitive emotional level or from a purely cold logic level, on the pure cold logic side, it just flat out doesn't work.
Yes.
Or it requires so many resources, or such a wealth of resources to put behind it to make manipulative marketing effective, that for 99% of businesses, they will not access or be able to find, or it is relatively pointless to seek out that form of marketing, because the reality is that authentic marketing, where you're authentically matching up, a need to a solution that can help them, and you're trying just as hard to filter out the people you can't help, or that the organization can't help, as the ones that you can.
Yeah.
I think that is the way of the present, the way of the future. And honestly, if we get more, away from that cold, hard logic, is 10 times more ethical and feels 10 times better. And just,
yes. Absolutely. 100%. And I think that a lot of the conversations that I've had over the last 6 months of that, I can feel people moving away from it. And again, because I think I come from an industry where it was so rampant that, that 1%, that manipulation, that trying to, get somebody a discount if they call in, that kind of like overdone marketing. I just think we're done with it as a society. And it's also like, there's a lot of noise out there with social media and the internet and all these things, right? People want authentic. Real is rare, and people really do want that real, authentic experience. And they want to feel like they connect with the brand, the company, the business, the person, right? People want to feel a part of something bigger. And that's where I think the opportunity is in marketing. And that's where the discussions that I've had with some of our partners are, which has been, like I said, it's been really, really great to feel not competitive, but collaborative.
Yes. I know for me, it's literally the difference between being working in this company, in this industry, and not, and I think that the people that we work with, we're blessed that we all share this kind of vision of authentic marketing. And, we do a lot of work that impacts people at a lot of different levels. And I think that that's really, really meaningful to all of us in different ways.
And really fun.
Like sector, nonprofit.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah. It is the projects that come in, because we work with a wide variety of digital agency partners. They're bringing in just vastly different projects, whether it is a nonprofit, whether it is an audiology clinic. We had a client, that was about sports a couple of weeks. So I'm just, it's all these varieties of different areas and different industries, which is super, super fun to be a part of, but also really fun to see the change that happens within, the client's business, or how excited the partners get when something has kind of come into fruition. It's been exciting.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And I'm glad that you brought up that kind of collaborative or cooperative aspect of it, because this is, I think, something that really does unite not just us internally, but a lot of our partners, is that whether we are working on a construction project or, a project for people who make parts for airplanes, or some stuff that, on the surface might seem really kind of obscure, abstract. But the fact that we are working with people who have this collaborative mindset means that those projects still end up being really cool. And often the people who work in those industries, it's like peeling back I know I like this term, but like peeling back the layers.
I've heard it once or twice.
Maybe once or twice, especially the last few weeks. But it really shows me ways in which people are helping and changing the world in radically different ways than the ones that I might imagine, or the ones that get the media attention. And this has created what I would consider to be a really hugely significant change in my life, where when I think about the world and I think about the people in it, I hear a lot from people who think that, the world is just all going to crap and there are no good people left and all this type of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I have a very deep lake of cynicism and healthy suspicion to pull from. But I'm from Montreal. We're from the East Coast, man. But all of that being said, my reality for years now is that I am immersed in a world every day with people who give a crap in a huge way and are really making a difference. And I cannot say with any kind of honesty or certainty in the way that I might have been able to like 5, 7, 8 years ago that there aren't good people in the world or that the world is full of bad people. I really think that it's quite the opposite. I think that the bad people get a lot of press or, I'm overgeneralizing these words good and bad,
Yeah, I totally understand. It's like that whole idea of, like the car accident. People don't want to look because it's negative and bad, but you can't stop. And I think that's kind of like, how you could look at it with negativity or negative people in the news or in the media or, like their stories, unfortunately, get shared a lot more. But I think you're absolutely right. Everybody that I've met, everybody that I've talked to really just want to help and bring value and educate. And I think that is amazing, right? And it really is, that saying also, I clearly like a lot of quotes and stuff, but, the 5, show me your 5 people you spend the most time with and I'll show you your future. And one of the things that has really kind of resonated with me since coming aboard with Anansi is that everybody's really great. So my future's looking good, like everybody really cares whether it is
here,
right. Yeah, no, 100%. Everybody really does care. And again, cares on multiple levels, like cares about the business, cares about our partners, cares about our internal team. Our partners care about themselves, about us, about their clients. Like it really just is a positive and good environment. And I'm not saying that there aren't challenges or aren't hard days. I'm just saying that the overall message is one of positivity and collaboration and like, how do we, grow and get better together?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I could keep digging into this is just great. This is just, reinforcing all of the fun parts of the job. But I do just want to kind of keep an eye on the time here and realize that we do kind of have to start winding down soon.
I think also because we're not meeting as much as we used to, that, once we start chatting, I don't want to stop.
I know. We have to start getting back into, it's definitely on the list. I know it's on Selena and I's leadership list, but we definitely have to get back onto the virtual staff parties. Give us
absolutely. I'm not going to say no to that.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, as we do start to wind down, is there anything that I should have asked but didn't that you have to share?
I don't think so. I definitely, first of all, it's been super fun to share. I'm not a big talker about myself. I'm really more interested in everybody else around me. But I think it was good maybe for the listeners to, if we haven't had the opportunity to chat, or maybe, you didn't understand where I come from or where, I want to go to, that I really just want to help you help your clients. Right. And that's all I really, really want to do. So I don't think so. I think you asked all the pertinent questions, Yeah, for now.
Okay. So nothing else that you want to share that maybe we skipped over. Okay. So
if we skipped it, it was for good reason.
Okay. Awesome. So I have a few lightning round questions here. So these are just kind of some fast-paced questions. Are you ready?
Good thing you can't see me. I'm starting to sweat.
Don't worry. This is super painless, I promise.
Okay.
All right. Question 1. So what gets you up in the morning?
Really like strengthening relationships with others. Well, besides my dog, like he actually technically wakes me up every morning, but really just the ability to strengthen my relationship with other and make an impact.
Okay.
That's a big one, but it's the thing.
I definitely relate to that. Okay. So what is the number one thing that you do to preserve your wellness?
This is good. As you know, maybe the listeners don't know, I've really been looking at my wellness over the last couple of months, looking at my diet, really having a morning routine. Like I get up at 5 and I know a lot of people say 5. And I, 5 years ago, I would have said that as well. But getting up early, having that morning routine, and striving really hard to have that proper night's sleep. And drinking water. I've really learned, first I thought coffee was an adult beverage. Then I thought wine was the adult beverage. It's water. Water is the adult beverage.
Nectar of life.
Yes.
Oh, definitely agree there. Okay. And last question. So what is the weirdest habit that you have that contributes to your success?
Oh gosh. So, I mean, we're all self-proclaimed dorks, I think, as part of this team, but I really am super sleuthy. So I have done a deep dive into like pretty much everybody, first of all, on the team and about the business when I started. And then also all of our partners, like I will go to the extra, and also the internet makes that easy to do now, but I really do like to do a big deep dive into people and companies before I either start to work with them or talk to them. I don't know if it's weird or not. I don't know that a lot of people do it, but I definitely creep everybody out as much as possible.
I can relate to that.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I like absorbing people's little slices of life as much as possible. It's their business life, their personal life. Like,
And I love to find, that connection, because there is one there. Even if people are living vastly different lives, there is a connection. So I really love to like dig in deep, see if I can find it, and then, come back and ask some questions about it.
Yeah. Agreed. Awesome. Okay. So why don't you just finish us off by telling our audience how they can find out more about you, where they can check out, if they want to get in touch with you or find out more about your life, where can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, I love to obviously love to talk to anybody and at any time, but you can always email me, Jenn@AnansiContent.com. If you want to find out a little bit about me, I know that I have some information on our website. I have recently rejoined the Facebook world. So you can now get a hold of me again on Facebook. I tried to leave it for a bit, but segueing back in. Also, that helps with the creep factor. Like that website is crazy. So be happy to reach out to me there. But yeah, just, I'd love to chat, even if you're a listener, maybe we haven't worked together, or maybe we haven't had that, chat yet. I'd love to, spend a couple of minutes talking to pretty much anybody about anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jenn.
Yeah,
I enjoy
so
much talking to you, and I enjoy so much talking to you for a few minutes.
Ditto, my friend. Yeah. 100%. I can't wait for the second round.
Excellent. Yes, I have some ideas about some stuff that will be great value to our listeners. Maybe we can dig into. So looking forward to that.
Thank you guys all so much.
Thank you again for being on the show, and hope to have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thanks, A.
And that does it for another amazing episode of the Say It Online podcast. Join us next week. And don't forget to like and subscribe, whether it's iTunes, whatever your favorite podcast player is. It is always, always appreciated. It really makes a difference for us. It helps us get this word out to more people. As always, this episode was brought to you by our sponsor and Say's own business, Anansi Content. If you're a digital agency owner and you're still wasting too much time chasing down content that maybe isn't even all that great, let's talk. We've spent years working on the best process for selling, planning, and delivering amazing conversion content for your client projects. Better yet, we moosh our process to yours so that your client and you have a seamless and amazing experience the entire time through. If you're interested, just go to our website. That's www.anansicontent.com. That's ANANSI content.com. And just click Let's Talk. I'd love to chat with you. Someone else on the team would also love to chat with you too. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day.